Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. I wanted peace in my life. I could see St. Francis looking down on them because the Friars were, I mean, they terrific. At Mass, you can feel Christ there. The Friars was very kind to me.
When I first got ordained and came to 31st Street, it was during the time of the Civil Rights. I did hear at times remarks about Dr. Martin Luther King maybe being kind of a troublemaker. None was ever said to me personally, but I just went about my business in disregard and remarks, thinking that it wasn't really meant, because I knew the particular Friars and I knew that they loved the people, including black people.
I was in and out of places to stay, getting evicted, not wanted here, not wanted there, not been accepted in a decent place to live. Until I came to live with the Friars at the St. Francis residence, I never really had a decent place to live. After I became ill, mentally ill, and lost my apartment and so forth, and had to start a new life. After that happened, I was in and out, never lived in any place, probably more than a year or a year and a half or 2 years at the most. And I've been at St. Francis now for more than 25 years.
You know, every friar I've met in the confessional, and I've seen a lot of the friars in confession, because I randomly come during the week before my work week. They've been very non-judgmental, very open to understanding the difficulties and the challenges that lay people have. I would say they're also very merciful, kind, very intellectual, and I think they're also, quite savvy in understanding the world in which the lay people live.
I guess it was a gloom and doom day. It was a year or so after September 11th. The city was in turmoil at that point. It happened to be my first day in the firehouse. There was a lot of doubt, there was a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, but to see a friar walking down the street, that was faith, that was a little hope there, you know. Looking at this big man coming down the street with this big old smile on his face, you know that there was some light at the end of the tunnel and everything was going to be okay, and that was my first real introductions to the Friars.
I met one friar and he introduced me to some more friars, and through that network I was able to find a rehab that would take somebody without insurance. Through their goodness they got me placed. 3 months later, when I got out, I was able to get a job, restarted my job out of rehab.
I thought I had a good relationship with God. But when you lose a child, everything is in question. Do I really believe in God? Do I really believe in heaven? Do I really have any faith at all? Because I had always felt very comfortable with my faith, but it was because I never questioned it. So I went through a very dark period in terms of my faith, trying to figure out what I really believed in and where God was in all of this mess, until I worked with my spiritual director to focus on answering the question, where is God in all of this? And my conclusion was that He's right here, every day.
In my ministry in an urban school, I have seen lived out the movement from sadness to joy. I have seen a young student who is homeless, who every day after school meets her mother on the street, and they find a place to find shelter, because oftentimes the formal shelters have no place. They're overcrowded or they're violent. And so she and her mother find a place under a bridge to spend their night. And this movement in her life from sadness to joy has allowed her to come to a Catholic college prep school, graduate with a B average, and now is a successful student in college. That is a movement from sadness to joy, not only in her life, but in the life of her mother as well.
A young man came into the box, and before he knelt down, said to me, "Do you give absolution to homosexuals?" And I said, "Of course." He knelt down and told me a story that was just heart-wrenching, a story in which he was really verbally abused. And as a result of that, he didn't come back to church, never mind confession, but didn't come back to church for 10 years. And I think that we friars have that spirit of Francis, of making people realize that they are so important, not only in God's eyes, but hopefully they realize in their own eyes.
The people that I encountered in my ministry, the Filipino people, provided a sort of a home away from home for me. This particular woman of faith that I encountered in the Filipino community really touched me in the sense that we as Filipinos, we have this great sense of hospitality and friendship. Every time I would visit her, and I would visit her regularly, she would prepare Filipino food for me. In addition, we would have conversations surrounding about faith, and she has tremendous, difficult faith questions. And I tried to answer them, and in the process, it was kind of a reflection for me. It was kind of an introspection saying, she has these questions, and I have got these answers, but do I truly believe the answers that I gave her? In a way, it was a reflection and a sort of a journey into my own faith.
Just 2 or 3 days after I was commissioned, the firefighters in the firehouse here across the street said, "We need to talk to you." And they sat me around the kitchen table where everything happens, and they said to me, "We know you've given your life for us as our chaplain. What you need to know is you have 11,000 of us. We know you're ours. Don't you ever forget every one of us is yours. So anything you need, you just say it, and it will be done."
When I was in England, and the student very suddenly became dramatically ill. And I will never forget him collapsing into my arms and asking me, "Brother Basil, am I going to live?" And I said to him, "John, yes, you're going to live. And the hand of God is with us right now." And at the end of that experience, or going away from the reality that was upon us at that particular time that summer, I can remember knowing, if I've ever known, yes, the presence of God in our world, in our lives, is just seeing how God works through the other person, and how I think as friars, we can never be too open to whatever's going on with someone else and in someone else's life.
People share a profound amount of their own brokenness in the sacrament. We identify very closely with people, and sometimes the struggles and the pain that the penitent is feeling are things that we have felt in our own lives. And thus, being a minister of the sacrament reminds us that it is in and through this ministry that we're simply doing largely what has already been done for many of us, receiving God's grace, God's pardon, God's forgiveness.
As we are told when we enter, that we are entering this family, my sense of family is that we care for one another, and we care for one another from the beginning until the end. And that has been a great privilege for me to be able to, on a daily basis, the time to be with my brothers as they walk towards their final yes to God.
When we pray, "Lord, make me an instrument of your peace," I feel that also means make me an instrument of your joy, and with joy comes a very Franciscan trait, which is a sense of humor. And sometimes that sense of humor cuts right through even the greatest tragedy or enormous amount of grief. Flo and Joe were two homeless veterans. Flo died of ovarian cancer, and Joe was inconsolable. And they asked us to do the funeral mass. That morning, the church was filled with people whom they had come to know and love. And as the liturgy progressed, as we blessed the body of Florence, who ate at the table of the Lord, who was baptized in the salvation of the Lord, Joe became more and more inconsolable with grief. And so at the end of the Mass, as the casket was being brought down the aisle, I asked him to accompany me so that he could greet all of these people who had known this couple for so many years on the streets. After the church was empty and the casket was gone, Joe turned to me and he said, "Father, that was the most beautiful service I have ever been to. If she was Catholic, she would have loved it." I said, "Joe, she wasn't Catholic?" He said, "No, she wasn't Catholic." In the midst of all this tragedy in his life, in the midst of this grief, came this sense of humor, this sense of love and acceptance that is truly Franciscan.